Welcome, welcome everyone. We have our session for today. It's our in-depth education. We have one of these topics each and every week for you, and it really gives you a deeper dive insight into human behavior, into growing a coaching business, having a deeper understanding of yourself. So today our topic is breaking silence, let your voice be heard. So if you've ever been in this situation where you feel like there's a lump in your throat and you want to say something but struggling to speak up, you are not alone. Then this is the perfect class for you to watch, because we're going to go into a deeper dive into what's happening about your experience, going into the root of the actual problem itself, understanding our psychology, and we're going to explore how we go about having authentic self-expression. You're going to love it. So we're going to cover today the need for approval, because that definitely plays a part in us being able to speak up. We're going to also recognize the impact that silence has on your both personal and professional life, and we're also going to explore authentic expression. So if you're here watching live, comment live below. If you are here watching the replay, comment replay. Love to see and hear your insights that you have along the way. We do have a resource all ready for you to go for this session as well. So if you want the resource and you want the download, just put in the comments below voice. If you're watching the replay inside of Maximum Growth Academy, you'll see there's just a download button underneath here. Okay, so let's get into class. Welcome everyone. So let's talk about the need for approval. This is a really big dynamic that happens when it comes to being afraid to actually speak. So humans are inherently social beings. And so what that means is, from an evolutionary point of view, we have needed people around us and we've depended on a group as a way for us to feel like we can survive. And so, therefore, the result of that has led us to really wanting and seeking acceptance from our group. And that's because then we get resources, we get protection, we create social bonds that are crucial for our survival. And so this like primitive need that we have to belong it hasn't changed over time. We haven't become less of that of a need, and actually there's over time there's been maybe more nuances of how we bond socially together, instead of in the primitive days where it was just one group was essential for survival, and so we'd have to go hunting and protecting, and then we'd go and gather all the food, and it was one group, and so social bonds were very unified because it was just one thing, and there was the environment that was threatening and challenging. But then throughout early civilization, we started to go into more tribes, and so more families, and so our social bonds started to change. We went from just this immediate group to then having a community and having larger social groups like villages or towns, and even nations that we started to feel more that we belonged and we became a part of. Now today, oh my gosh, there's just so many. It's like you can be part of a running club, a chess club, Facebook groups. You can be a part of a mother's group, your school that your kids go to. There is just so many complexities to the layers of social connections that we have. And so understanding how these social connections play a role in our ability to then voice ourselves and share our voice, because if we feel like there's an element that's going to make us feel unsafe if we shared our thoughts, and they will go against and risk the judgment from other people, it can trigger ourselves to shut down and not want to say anything, because we're essentially putting the survival or that feeling of feeling like we're connected in with the group as more important than our voice. And so we can then have this dynamic that we feel more shut down, and we almost infatuate or look up to the group or need the group. And so that need for approval plays a really big part in our voice. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to see there's a continuum. So in our download, you'll see that I've got a resource for you so you can check this out. But I want you to imagine that there's a continuum of conformity to authenticity. So conformity is where you go with the group and you go with what the group wants. And then on the continuum, the other side, so if we swing the pendulum completely to the other side, it would be like your authentic expression. Just say what you want, when you want, how you want. Now, I know there are some people who do that, but the thing is, we live on a continuum. It's not we're not either one side or the other, but we sit somewhere. So maybe you're like about here. You're more like authentic, but there's still a little bit of conformity. And so we want to understand where we sit on this, because if we do too much conforming to what groups want, and considering we have so many groups, we can be a family group, we can be a sporting group, we can group in our workplace, and we can have our school friends group. And so when we try to conform too much to too many people, we almost lose our sense of identity and lose our sense of self, and we're not going to be able to express ourselves. And so we want to be able to appreciate or notice who's the individuals around us that we're really conforming to and minimizing ourselves to. And because there will be people that you don't do that to and people you do, so you just want to be maybe aware of that. And who are you trying to conform and you struggle to find your voice with? Are there certain people, there's certain groups, or are there other groups that you can express yourself? I love this about the personal development world. Some people can feel very comfortable about expressing themselves in the personal development world where people understand them, but they go home to maybe their family members or people in the outside world, and they just feel like, I can't even say it. I can't even say what I'm interested in, what I like, or what I believe in, or what I stand for, and they feel that their voice gets shut down. So we want to understand which groups are we conforming to and which groups do we feel authentic in. So if we come back to the continuum that we have judgment and self-expression. So when we understand that there's a scale in which we can feel where either there's a lot of judgment and the fear of judgment, or there's also a desire for self-expression. And so we can also be on that continuum as well, because there's sometimes it's like, I want to avoid criticism. I don't want to be ridiculed or rejected. And so that results in shutting down and not saying anything and not having your voice, because again, it goes back to that need for approval, need for belonging, need for that security, and you're putting security over expression. And so the opposite then would begin to self-expression, where you just have a desire to want to share your ideas and perspectives, your creativity, and your knowledge, without the potential fear of judgment. And that is, we want to kind of lean more over to here, but we do that by working through our emotional charges that we have. So when we kind of understand, so what I want you to start to think about is, if you did a life review of all the places and people that you feel that you can express yourself and places you can't, I would start to maybe do a deep dive into what makes this you being authentic and you can express here, and not so authentic and you can't express yourself here. So it's something to ponder and think about. So there's something else I really want to talk about with you today, and it is around social identity theory. So we're really big, particularly at Maximum Growth Academy, is how do you create identity-based businesses? Because if you create something that's around who you are, you get paid to be who you are. You don't have to go and do a job and put another hat on. It's actually just an extension of you and the things that you love. And so our identity and our sense of identity affects our business, it affects our life. And so our social identity is also part of our individual concept. So what I mean by that is you get to know who you are and a sense of self when it's relative to others. And our social group can have an impact on our sense of identity and sense of self. And so what we want to be able to appreciate is, with social identity theory, is that it helps us to understand the groups that we become a part of help to define us and define who we are. And so if we look at our social identity and our self-identity, we want to have almost like a deeper understanding. Do we sway in social identity to what the values of the group want and lose our sense of self? This is where some people might find that they go out drinking. Maybe this is in your younger days where you go out drinking a lot and you're like, I don't even really want to drink, but the social identity of who you are in that social group changes, and therefore you lose your voice, you lose your expression because you're trying to conform too much. and you kind of get into the membership of that group and do what they do, but it's not who you are. And so then there's that self identity. You know who you are. You're not swayed by the outside world. You've got a solid sense of self. And so what we want to understand is, with our social identity and our self identity, can we have the same version of who you are when you're maybe at home and you're with the people that you love? And how do we bring that out? So when your social identity, it's actually one and the same. You don't have to lose a sense of self or lose your voice over when you've got people around. So you're not afraid then to share your opinions and thoughts. If you do it with your family, how do you be able to, or you do it with your personal development family, how do you then go and do it with the greater, wider community? So something to maybe ponder and think about when it comes to your social identity and your self identity. And then the last thing is I want to talk about is our authenticity. So if we want to be able to be truly authentic, we have to stand for something. If you want to have a voice out in the world, you have to know the very thing that you stand for. So in our Maximum Growth Academy last night, this was actually something that some of the geeks of the group who like to be the overachievers who want to go and end up doing this, is that we have two questions. Well, there's many other questions, but these are two questions. It's like, what do you want to stand for? And what do you want to stand against? So if you know, like for example, some people like, I'm going to stand against animal cruelty, and I'm not going to buy any products that have animal cruelty testing and in it. And so that mean makeup products, clothing, for example, and they stand for something that's like so important to them that's what they're standing for and they're standing against. And so if we don't have a solid sense of self, and we don't know what we want to stand for, and we don't know what we want to stand against, like what is okay and what is not okay, then, and we feel like we want to have like this neutral or like no voice or a neutral voice, then it is also difficult for us to be expressing ourselves and going out and sharing our voice with the world and breaking our silence if we don't know the very thing that we want to stand for and stand against. So I'm going to encourage you to maybe consider at some stage, what is the things that are really meaningful to you in your business, in your life, like what is important, and what would you love to stand for in the world, in life, and what do you want to stand against? And so maybe having a really clear picture of what that is for you in your business, in your life. And therefore, when you know that that's so meaningful to you, and you'd stop at nothing to share that message or to change that dynamic, then you're willing to stand up and speak up. It's just got to be meaningful enough for you. So I'm going to leave you with that gem of wisdom. If you do know what you want to stand for and stand against, write it in the chat below. Would love to hear that in the chat and start a conversation. So thank you, team, for coming along for our in-depth education for today. We have every single week this topic and a new topic for you. So I hope you loved it. If you'd love to come and join our Maximum Growth Academy, our doors open on the 1st of the month, and we have a new intake coming through. We're having an amazing experience right now in terms of working through finances, really getting shifting dynamics around the ideal client and getting a lot more clarity so people can go out to the world and share their service with the world. So if it's something that you're interested in, come and join our community. You'll love us. So thank you, team. I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and I look forward to seeing you at the next perfect time.